Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Hello, everybody. A warm welcome to Wisdom from North, the place where we're diving into the deeper meaning of life and asking the big questions. My name is Jannecke, and today I'm so honored to be here with Sri Mooji. Now, Mooji was born in Jamaica and moved to London and worked as a street painter and later as a teacher in a college. But in 1987, he met a Christian mystic that really changed his life, this encounter. It brought him into a direct experience with the divine within. And within a short period of time, he experienced a shift in consciousness. Hello, Mooji. Welcome. How are you?
Fine. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Wonderful. I'm very excited about speaking to you today because I always share a little bit with my viewers about my own personal journey, and I've been to India like 7 years ago, and I feel like I've been on this spiritual quest for a long time. And when I went to India, my goal was to awaken. It was to experience this feeling of bliss, and I thought I kind of knew what it was. But now, after doing 300 interviews for 4 years, I feel like I still don't have a clue about what awakening is, and I've never experienced it myself. And from my perspective, it seems like you have kind of reached a state that is very peaceful, and in my eyes that's a kind of an awakening. But would you agree? Can you speak a little bit about what an awakening is?
Early in life, to identify with the body as being ourself, and also the conditioning which arose through whatever environment we grew up in, that quickly becomes our reference for life and seems to contribute to the identity we believe ourselves to be. And that is not the truth in any complete sense. But that is what we take to be ourselves, and what we now often refer to as our personality or our person. So that is something that we acquire, and every human being at some point, early stages in their life, we fall into this state of a kind of ignorance of our true nature. But that is somehow camouflaged, or you may say the conditioned state appears as though that's what our fundamental nature is. And so we go through life believing that, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and my conditioning makes me who I am, and so on. And that is pretty much so for most people, until at some point, something in life, an experience, it could be something that has a tremendous impact on us, shakes us out of that sort of mold of, or that mode of thinking and belief. It can be just simply meeting someone, or even reading a book, or falling ill for some time, or losing a best friend, or the breakup of a relationship. These things, they can contribute to the kind of have an impact that may change the way we begin to look at life. And so right there for many people is born a deeper curiosity as to really what life is about, because in such moments it feels so fickle that life can change just at the twist of a moment, and you can be fallen from a state of what seems to be happiness into deep states of sorrow and suffering. And so it really provokes a deeper urge within us to search for something that is lasting and something more true. So that for many people is the beginning of their spiritual journey, for a search for the state of completeness. So I don't know if that really addresses your question really properly, because you asked, what is it like, this awakened state? And I said, well, actually, as we come to discover more about our true nature, not just mentally or emotionally, but actually being experientially. And if we are so fortunate to meet someone who is a bit further ahead in that experience, who can guide us safely, or you meet a master or something, if we are so fortunate to meet a master, who can guide you and know the pitfalls that occur through the mind, because the mind, in its psychological aspect, can be very misleading for many people. And a master can guide you through safely, in a way in which you can begin to experience more profoundly, more sincerely, the truth of yourself. As that begins to happen, you'll find a deep peace moving in, a state of deep stillness and a joy which does not need an event or a story to manifest. And the more these are experienced, they are so profound, so impactful, that they actually encourage you to go more deeply. And it can become so much for some people that they're willing to leave everything in their lives for it, because it's such a profoundly beautiful state of being.
Wonderful. I get 1,000 questions just right now. So when you felt this awakening, did you at the same time felt a connection to the divine? And what then is that divine connection? Because I felt a connection to something greater, but I don't think I've felt the divine within. And is that what you're saying, that it's the true nature, but it's also a kind of a relationship to something?
Yes. For me, it was very simple, I mean, I simply started off feeling very, very well at one particular encounter. Yeah, actually several encounters, but one provoked such a deep moment, not of introspection, but just inwardness and relaxation and peace, that I did not want to sleep, because I felt so happy, you see. And then, so eventually, of course, I went to sleep, but I wake up in the morning, the feeling was still there, you see. And actually, a peace came that really never left. But what I want to say is that it was very clear for me, and perhaps because I grew up with a kind of Christian background, so that would shape the way in which you may interpret what the experience, the significance of the experience. For me, it was very clear this was nothing to do with something I had created. It was simply a happening. And it was so deep and so natural that it was like love at first sight, although there wasn't a sight to it. But, I was totally captivated by this. I just wanted more, to be so totally this. I had no doubt about it inside, in terms of, it wasn't so much a belief, it was more that the experience was so profound, and so I felt so embraced by a loving power that I just wanted as much of it as possible. And this was what I was hinting at earlier when I said that some things can happen in your life that can change it instantly. And that was a kind of instant moment, because it felt like I was ready to give everything up for this feeling. And that was just after a few days. So it can happen like that for some.
In India, they taught me that we can get a spiritual experience through two ways, either through grace or through practice.
Yes.
Would you say that that's correct, that there are like either the divine like chooses you for some reason, or either you have to meditate or practice to get that state? Yeah.
I can agree with that broadly, that because in fact I was not expecting something. I was not practicing. I felt I was just somehow the way in which I met this Christian mystic, as you mentioned at the beginning of our talk, is just that this person had showed up at my door and knocked and asked. I was not there at the time, and asked my partner at the time, who made this stained glass, because I was making some stained glass, and it was obvious it was a new piece, but that was how he presented, like, who made this, because he himself was making stained glass. And he just said like this, and she mentioned my name and said I was not there, but I would come back later. So it was a very simple, innocent, very natural, everyday kind of talk, or meeting. And then the other one you mentioned, so I'd call that grace. I'd call it grace, but I would say somehow it must have been, when looking back at it, seemed like it was already arranged by some higher power.
Right.
Because it was so beautifully timed for me. And the other part you mentioned is like about practice. And of course, people all over the world are engaged in some form of practice or worship or, whatever. They have a sense or belief, or they probably have had some experience of the divine touch or like this. And then somehow they are trying to really completely surrender or to practice to get more close to it or more fully pulled into it. That is how it will be experienced for them. And that does bring about a deeper understanding, and with deeper understanding, more of the ego identity falls away. And the more ego identity falls away, the more it seems that, you become lighter and more open and naturally pulled into that inner experience. You see?
For me, I think it's I need to practice, and I've been kind of struggling with that. I've been a little bit annoyed with the divine sometimes, because I feel like I have to practice so much in order to get some stillness, and then at times I kind of lose not hope, but I kind of give up for a while because I feel like it's so much work, like meditating, and I'm like battling with my mind. But do you think that that's the purpose, that some people are supposed to have a more challenging path in their search for enlightenment and awakening?
That might be so, but what happens is when people come to me, somehow I have a sense of how, they all say, I'm here for this. And as I listen to you and you speak as you did just now, that you say it was frustrating to this whole idea of practice, I feel immediately like a sort of urge to kind of guide you towards that. You see, that this is how it happens. Because I would not like to say to people, it takes a lot of practice to see that. I can say, no, actually, it is very simple. And if they are open, we can see how far you can get with actually coming to a place of clarity and peace within your own self. And it can be a question of a few minutes also. So this is how I would put it, because just to counteract this very stubborn belief that we have, that it take a lot of lifetimes or a lot of practice, I say, not really. You can be guided into the space of no mind or into the space of the inner being and presence very simply. So whenever you want to do that, I can help you if you are open to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was very open for that a few years ago, but lately, like the past few years, I've kind of explored other paths of spirituality, or not paths, but other sides of it. I've delved into emotion more, and I was wondering about that. Is the intention, or not the goal, but the path for every human being, is that awakening? Is that meant to be awakening? Is that what we're moving towards? Is that like the intention for all of us?
I would like to put it, and it's a beautiful drive or impulse towards awakening, because it simply means to be totally yourself. That's all it means. So if people understood it in this way, I don't know who I would find to say, well, I'm not interested in being true to myself. You see? So, I'm not putting in front, like, say, a religious view or something. I'm saying just you discovering the path to your fullness, to the full expression of what you are.
But I think maybe that some resistance that I've heard others have had, and also in myself I've discovered that I'm a bit afraid, I think, actually, of awakening, because I'm afraid of the emptiness, because I hear people like you and other spiritual teachers are talking about that you just feel that you exist. It's kind of this emptiness. And then I'm afraid of losing myself. And a part of me really loves sometimes the ups and downs and the dramas, you know?
Well, I don't, you've said a lot there. I would say that actually you cannot be afraid of self-discovery. Your mind is, or that part of ourself that we imagine, that has been our trained self, our constructed sense of identity. Fear comes up in that region in us. But you truly cannot be afraid of your own true nature. And they speak of words like emptiness. Perhaps we have listened too much without really being guided into what that really experience is like. Because if really and truly being guided into emptiness was such an abstraction and so much a removing from the life as you know it, then who would really want that? And you have to remember that most religious practices, most spiritual goals we have role models like Christ or the Buddha or Lord Krishna or like this. We have role models, and they inspire in us great peace and love and openness, a great sense of freedom and joy. So, this is an indication that self-discovery cannot be a sorrowful, sort of discovery. And if there's fear towards it, it's maybe because of the way in which it has been presented, as though, yes, there's just this great emptiness and we're just floating in this emptiness. But really, the experience is not like that. It is actually very, very, although it might, on one side, you can say it's a great sense of emptiness, meaning that actually your mind is not cluttered with 100,000 things. There is a total state of presence and a total feeling of being, of natural state of yourself. And, your mind is functioning in a really good way. It is not your enemy. The mind is more in service to the expression of truth. So all the things that people seem to be afraid of initially, the sort of like the reflex to I'm going to lose all the things I like in life, like the contrasts and the ups and downs and so on. Actually, you hinted at it. It is not so great if you are under it. It is you will still continue to have a body, to have the senses functioning, to have a mind, but you will not be overwhelmed or be so likely to be thrown into states of depression. Experiences will continue for you, but you will not really be overwhelmed or become addicted to any particular state. And I'm sure that people will be very happy for that, because largely we suffer because of being in states that we cannot change.
Right.
You see? So I would like to counteract that view to say it is not really like that. The emptiness is not that, you become sort of like stupid or foolish or you don't know what's going on or something like that. It's different from that. The world is still seen. You still interact with beings, but it seems much more superficial, many of the things, which it is in fact. Many of the conversations that people talk about is very superficial, very, very momentary, not particularly contributing to the deeper nature in any way. So I feel that the awakened being is a much more interesting being than the ego being. Okay? The awakened being is a much more interesting and really meeting someone who is really awake to the self. If you are open to that, you're much more satisfied with that type of company than someone who is just really involved in their own ego. And I am willing to stick my head out on that one and say yes, all the way.
So, do you still feel feelings of anger, jealousness, envy, like all these lower emotions. Do you feel them, or are they kind of, because I've heard someone said that they are just moving through you, but you're not attached to them, but you still feel every emotion?
Well, we never feel every emotion, but there are some feelings that will still continue. It is still possible that you'll feel moments of some sadness, waves of sadness, or some anger may come, but it's much more momentary. It is not, they don't put down roots in there, you know. And it is good that your being is open to feel these waves as well too. It also means that you can empathize and understand how other people can feel also. But you're not going to be a victim to them. You see? You may experience these feelings, but you will not be overwhelmed or saturated by them. You see? And that makes a huge difference. It means that there's much more a feeling of detachment towards not only those feelings, but even of pleasurable feelings too. You know, I don't feel that we benefit so greatly by being so deeply immersed and involved in our emotions and feelings and whether they are beautiful or not. There's always a beautiful state of detachment, a sweet detachment, in fact. To be so thrown into the pot, the stewing pot of feelings, is not a pleasant thing. It takes a long time for many people to come out also. Well, as you come more closely, more clearly into the state of your natural being, such states will not prolong in you. You see, they may come, but they won't leave a deep memory in you, or so take you over, so to speak.
But what about like falling in love? I mean, that's a feeling many of us know and perhaps love to feel. Will that kind of be more detached in a way as well?
No, actually, I would want to tell you something that may surprise you. I think it beautifies love more. It's not that you're more not so much falling in, you're rising in love actually. Because I don't feel that I think we have a lot of romantic ideas about what life should be, and they often get into the richness, the diversity, the fullness, and the sense of completeness that can come with love. I think largely human being, we have misunderstood love. We have limited only to kind of like the emotional side of love, which is also included in the great love. But the love there's a love that is there naturally in us, which is inherent in our being. The love for the true self, or for truth. The love for life. The love which is manifesting as gratitude for your existence, and for the abilities that come with the life force, to perceive and to discern, to enjoy, to all of these things are contributing to the richness of love, So nothing is lost in that way. I would say love is amplified in a much richer sense, in fact. A lot of people suffer love. You know it well, actually, that it's not all the cozy images that we like to fantasize it being. That it has another contribution too, because it enriches our life in so many ways, even in the painful moments, because it can contribute opportunities for deeper understanding and for introspection, and to look more deeply into our behavior and our thoughts, and to see how much they can sometimes rob us of the fullness of love also. You see? So.
Right. So when you are in this state, can you also, in this natural state, can you also see through the illusion in a way? So you will get knowledge about the universe, like all of a sudden know how this all is connected, how things work, where you come from, where you're going. Like, do you see into other dimensions, I guess, or worlds?
Yes. We are so unique in our expression in form that each form, expresses a certain aspect of the divinity, of the totality. No one form expresses all of the totality. And it is like when you speak about like the knowledge that you hinted at there. This knowledge, this kind of knowingness more than knowledge. I put knowingness at a much more profound than knowledge, because knowledge, until we really know who we are, our knowledge, so to speak, is not so reliable. I mean, if you consider, we have all this knowledge, but the knower of knowledge we don't know. You see? So, I mean, we love the idea that we can learn about things, but when asked about our true nature, beyond just a personality, we choke up. We don't know what to say. You know, we have so little understanding of our true self. Well, part of that great awakening that take place is a sort of a spontaneous integration of knowledge. It's like you did not study for it, but you come into a field of synchronicity and harmony that you may call grace, in fact. And you may never be able to speak a tenth of what you experience intuitively. You cannot put it into words. It is like somehow you're pulled into this realm of divinity. And it is very natural, not because you are especially special. I don't want to put it like that. But that you will feel that this is a very special thing. You see? That you, without studying, you can come to know things. We have been so cultured and to believe that whatever you know is what you've had to study. But some people come into a realm of knowingness, intuitive knowingness, because their being is flowing in harmony with the cosmic pulse. It's not even they study that. They come to that simply by having this attitude of exchanging their personal identity in some way to merge with the supreme self, which is no other than their true self, actually. And in the process of that, of being immersed in that, they're discovering very spontaneously, actually. They're not even running after it. They're more in the in-loveness of it, more than the specific knowing of anything. You see? So the knowledge becomes is a sort of byproduct of falling in love with the self.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it would be very interesting with people like you talking to scientists, you know, and share information. I mean, we could find out so much more about the mysteries of life.
Well, you know, recently I was invited to such a conference, and it was a conference about science and non-duality, and I was invited there. I was so much looking forward to speaking to scientists, to speaking to physicists and great mathematicians. I've had the privilege of speaking to some over the years, but I thought that specifically, okay, now we can talk. But they didn't show up. The only one showed up, who I liked very much. It was very nice. But I feel that we are speaking about the same subject, in fact. Yeah, from different angles. Yeah. But I have not really met anyone who would really come forward and talk about it. You see, because really with these type of things, I cannot speak about them just academically. It must come into an opportunity for direct experience also, and to confirm something. And that's going to come from more of an intuitive place rather than a studied place.
Right, I see that it's different words, terms, expressions, and...
No, I don't mind that. The different terminologies and stuff, we are perfectly okay with that, you know. It can be as vast, it can be as simple, it can be as complex in some way, but not if it is intended or made to feel complex. I like to simplify things and to look at them in a more naked and honest way. And many people want to do the very same thing too. So I feel quite excited if I would meet scientists who are genuinely fascinated by the subject. And there are some, perhaps even many, but I have not met them so much. Maybe through your program, I might meet a few of them.
Well, I mean, that's my dream, that we will create these bridges between spirituality and science, I think it's the same actually, just from different angles. And yeah,
I don't see any separation, in fact.
Sorry?
Ultimately, there's not really any profound separation. You know, in real discussion, they must meet. That is the exciting thing about it, is the possibility of coming to meet. You know, to that through, not saying we're coming to meet, but that we're coming, and through exploring genuinely, we come to a singular understanding. In fact, you may still keep the label of science and spiritual if you want. But the outcome would be one of a deeper understanding if the search is genuine.
Right. So speaking of that, do you feel like you are expanding, also discovering new things as well all the time, or have you kind of reached some state?
There's two aspects of it. One is that I feel that as long as the body is here, and the vital breath is in the body and consciousness is present, one will always be maturing and refining one's knowledge. It will be happening just as a matter of fact. You know, that change will be, that evolution will continue, that maturing will continue. But there's also a certain ultimateness in some way, where the background of that maturing will be of unchanging awareness. There's a ground there that is not part of an evolutionary movement. It is like the source or the base. That when one comes to that understanding and that seeing and that direct experience, that is called enlightenment. That is what is termed enlightenment or full awakening. That you are established in your understanding, in your being, in that singular oneness, not as a thought, not as an intellectual conviction, but as the truth of yourself. And at the same time, you have a dynamic expression as life in the body, where you meet people that you enjoy to speak with them, you have satsang or you whatever it is, that continues to happen, and there's a growing in that field. There's an evolution in that expression, but that's only in the expression. Behind the expression is some unchanging dimension, which is, I'm using the word behind, but it's not really behind because it's not limited. It's everywhere. But in order to speak of it, it's I will use the words like is behind the mind or something like that. Yeah.
So when you're talking about the true self, are you in a way talking about the soul, like me as not Jannecke, but the being I was before I came here, and then I look at myself as something separate from you in a way, but from another perspective, a lot of people talk about oneness, that we're one. So the true nature, is that as me or as the whole? If you understand my question.
Yes, it is both, but it's more true to say you're in your wholeness. You see, you spoke of the being you were before you came into being a person, or so to speak. You see, so that being was not left somewhere. It's not somewhere else. It's right here in the core of who you really are. In fact, a book that is just coming out, our next book, is called Who You Are Before You Became. You see? And I say this simply because you mentioned, like what I was before I came into this role as being Jannecke or whatever. No? So, yes, pretty much like that. And Jannecke is a role that you're playing now, and that role keeps changing. But in your inmost being, there's something unchanging. So it's kind of two-aspected, you can say. The part, just like the body is always changing, mind is always changing, identity is always changing. And yet your deepest being remains unchanging. And in a sense, it needs to be so. You see? And that's what makes introspection or meditation so powerful, because the one you take yourself to be now, when it begins to reflect on its true nature, it comes back to that still place, the unchanging place, the beautiful place, the harmonious place. And actually it brings a lot of light and illumination in the expression that is functioning right now also. It illumines it and it brings much more joy and openness, because actually even ego, I don't want to strike at the ego only, because actually ego can be there, but by the time you understand your true nature, it is so superficial, it's more playful. Oh. The thing is that it's become so much representing a kind of fact. But it is actually the fiction of ourself. The fact is your inmost being. That is the fact of yourself.
Yeah, it's so exciting to hear about this. And I would like to speak or ask you, because I think many listeners are now thinking, but how? How can I practice? How can I silence my mind? And I actually tried the other day. I did one of your exercises on your webpage, self-inquiry. And I tried to sit with the I exist, that sentence or that feeling, I exist. And then it was like ridiculous. All these thoughts from like years ago came in, memories, like things I haven't thought of. It was like even harder to stay still.
Why don't you do something for your listeners, and let's do a bit of it now?
Okay.
Because that would be the best thing if they want to find out, and rather than I am telling them in words and so on, let's show how simple it can be, in fact.
Okay, so what do we do?
Well, just like right now, we're sitting here together, and I would say, like, okay, you obviously have the feeling of being. You know that you are. The sense I am is with you. And I just want us just to focus only on that feeling of being, only on the sense of being. We're not going to create or imagine that, because it's already there. When you have the feeling I, it is the sense of being. Later we call it a person, but actually it is only a sense of being. So we're only going to start there. Just the feeling, I'm here. That's just this. Now, if you don't, I'm not going to add any stories to it. Okay? So whatever happened today, we're not going to include, or what happened yesterday and so on. There's only the feeling of that I exist, you exist, and you're here. That's how I like it. That's the most simple way. Because whatever happened this morning, you will forget later on. Well, as you did what happened yesterday, you've forgotten also. And the day before, largely, we have forgotten. So I always ask you, just come to this place of I am, this sense of being. Okay? And don't allow any other thoughts or judgments or feelings to combine itself with just the feeling of being. Okay? So we don't touch any thought, or if any feelings come up, just the feelings come up, but you're not going to combine or get involved in them. That's all. So you leave everything left aside. You can do this, no? It's not so difficult.
I have to concentrate.
A little bit. You'll have to do a little bit, but you don't have to concentrate so much. Just that you are just a feeling of being. You're not inventing it. You're not imagining. You're simply not engaging with the stuff your mind is bringing up. And normally, the mind will want to bring up a lot of things right now. Okay? A tsunami of things. So this is why I wanted to do it with you now. So you can see that even if a lot of things come up, it is okay. It is okay. If 1,000 things come up, in some way it makes it easier, because you can't think of 1,000 things. If 1,000,000 things come up, you'd actually be very quiet, because you can't think of 1,000,000 things. You see? Usually
Will it get easier? I mean, will there come less and less thoughts?
Right now it's going to do. So you see, it's not, if any thoughts are coming up, even like, will it get easier? That's another thought you're adding. So just leave that. Don't touch that. Okay? Look, you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy it. Look, it's so simple. And so you don't engage with any of the thoughts, or any feeling, or anything to do with time, like yesterday or this morning, or what will happen after the show, or what is going to be my next question. I know you can do that. So you just leave them for a moment. Your listeners, your viewers are going to really enjoy this through you. So you don't touch any of these things for a moment, and until there's just a feeling of emptiness. Just a feeling of emptiness. I want to show you that there's nothing to be afraid of, actually. So you leave everything, and even if the mind is shaking or something, it's okay. It can shake. It's not the first time, Simply, you're not being involved with it. You see? And tell me genuinely, don't try to pretend or nothing to me, what is your feeling at the moment? If you follow all the things I ask you to just do, just to stay that, are you still inside very, very noisy? Because we can work through that too.
No, I'm not very noisy. I feel strange.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes. Now the feeling of strangeness, that is just a thought actually. That the mind says, this feels strange or something. And so it's what happens is there's a side to the mind that is not really working on your behalf. It will try to sabotage or to distract you from being in your center. We must be aware of that. Okay? So that's the side of the mind that will show up at times like this, to try and discourage you and to put you off. Okay? It happens for everyone, whether you are Shiva or Christ or a Buddha or whatever. So for a moment that will come, You feel a bit strange. It's not, you just it's a sensation is there, but don't combine yourself. Don't use it as an assessment. You're aware of it, but you're not touching it. Okay? So that feeling is just a feeling. It's just a feeling, and it will change. So don't give it too much attention. Now, what is left now?
Well, I feel energy in my body.
Yes.
A lot.
This is very natural. Because what tends to happen sometimes is the mind itself was using that energy to produce thoughts. You see? And now, because you've been invited to not give energy to the thoughts, you're experiencing energy as energy. It is fine. You see? It is not disturbing. It's just a flow of energies there. And you are aware of this. Okay? So don't say that you are even this energy. It is only a movement. You see? You are greater because you are aware of it. So let the energy just flow. Don't interpret it and don't identify. So that's another beautiful thing. Now what is remaining?
I don't know.
It's okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, this is something beautiful, and it's okay that you don't know. I want to say this to you again. It is okay to not know, because the mind is always pretending it knows something. And to not know is actually a very spacious place. It's a place where you can simply just be. And being is not about knowledge. It's just of being. And that is one of the important stages that you will experience within yourself, and you will allow yourself simply to be. It is just feeling of being. And it is good to get used to it. Isn't it? Because I'm looking at your face, I don't see any fear at the moment. Okay?
No,
all right,
I feel like laughing.
This is good. This is good. The laughing is your joy, is a kind of happiness, and also that you don't feel you don't have anything to particularly say about it. And you see, so all the signs are arising just by themselves. You're not making anything up. You're simply noticing and just giving yourself a break from your mind. Consciously, you're choosing to do that. And just by following this and not being afraid, you see, we are together right now, so it's not like, say, maybe if you were by yourself, you might think, oh my God, I'm going crazy, and so on. That's another thought, by the way. You're not going crazy. Actually, you're becoming sane in the most beautiful way. You see? And then, like this, the peace is coming, and the spaciousness. And so these are feelings that you should not be afraid of at all, because they are your friends. This is your perfume. It is very, very beautiful. You see?
Nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I love this.
Yeah.
I felt like I got an experience of something now.
Yeah. You see, your mind wants to turn it to the past already, you say.
Yeah.
It says, I felt, I got. You see, like it's already want to change it to the past. But it is already still present in you. It doesn't belong to time, actually.
Right.
You see? Now, this is just the kind of exercise I often introduce to people who sometimes come with a lot of fear and some anxiety about these things, and they've heard all this kind of stuff, and said, no, let's just try it and see. And after they try, they just want more. They want to do it more and more because it feels so good, it's so natural. And that's all that happens. You continue in this type of just being. You're just being. You're not making any mantras. You're not sitting in a cave. You're simply resting and not engaging with the thoughts that come in. Don't get pulled in. You see? So you can see them like you're looking at a screen, but don't log into them. You simply stay in the feeling of just this state of presence. And what you are experiencing at the moment is your natural state of presence, of being. And that is your divinity, in fact. It is simple like that. And the more that you allow that, you give yourself the space to experience this, it will bring such a beautiful silence and intuitiveness and peace and joy into your being. And I don't think you are going to want to dismiss those at all.
I'm so happy I had this experience.
You are
and
having
it.
Yeah.
Observe my mind.
Yes.
Like when thoughts come in, I'm like, oh, that was a sad thought, and then like I really am much more aware. I was much more aware now.
This is the thing. You are going to become increasingly aware in a natural way. So the thoughts come, and what I would encourage is not to be selecting, this is a good one, this is a bad one. You know? Just see them all as thoughts. And why I say this is because from the place you're looking, you are beyond thoughts. You have no need of them. You see? When we engage with thoughts, it's like you get pulled into their energy, in their suggestiveness, and it amounts to a kind of distraction for a while. You see? Now, that's not to say thoughts are bad in themselves. I just think that we are too involved with them too often and too much. Now you're becoming aware of the space of being. That's much more important than thoughts. Because from the space of being, you will feel much more energized, much more switched on to what is important for you. You see, and you will feel that. You will not be thinking that. And that is so important. I don't think you, in the experience, you will not need anybody to tell you it is important. You will know already how valuable that is to your existence.
So just a question to that. What is the purpose of thoughts then, if the knowing is there already in a way?
Very good question. Very good question. Well, thoughts are good in their practical functioning. We need thoughts if you have to arrange to take a flight and to do things, practical things. You have a mind. The thoughts will come. But when you are more established in the state of presence, the thoughts will become more ordered. They won't attack you in quite the same way. In the beginning, when you are learning, when you're discovering your strength, they're going to come like a tsunami. They're going to want to break your spine. They're going to come like that, I'm telling you. Okay? To put you off. And many people are put off. But many go through into this wonderful state of being. So get used to that the thoughts are going to come, oh, you think you've done, you think you're special, and this thing, no, it's going to come like that. It's going to actually begin to separate from you. and feel like it's your enemy a little bit, you know. And in fact, when you are been cooperating with the old regime of thinking, you know, they will not seem like they're a threat. They seem like they're a friend. But as soon as you're discovering your true nature, they will seem to go on the attack. And they will try to create distortions in your perception and to tell more lies and so on. And some people, actually it helps some people because they just come to see clearly that their mind is not on their side. It's not their friend, not yet. You see? And so a little battle starts there. And sometimes you feel you're losing it. And then you have to be encouraged, darling, you know, you're doing so well, you stay with it. In a while, it will be over. You will go through. But this is the challenge, the great challenge in any genuine search for liberation or for truth, is that there's a side to all our nature, to everyone's nature, that is going to be to try and sabotage any opportunity to win your freedom. It is like that. And if I don't say this, then in some way I'm keeping something from you. Everyone goes through that storm, that wilderness, where you feel like you're left alone and it's so difficult. And what most people do is give in to the mind, to the mafia. Is okay, I'll be a good girl. I want to try and run for freedom anymore. But there are many others who will continue to encourage you and say, this is your real opportunity and purpose for being on this earth with this body. You must overcome, because where you came from is from the Supreme Being. That's who you are. You're a child of the Supreme Being. You see? And you must win yourself back from this kind of, I would say, the distortions and the delusions that make us settle for so little in life when you are everything as you are.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This was so profound and so wonderful, and I felt that it was so healing for me right now, and I'm sure for so many who are watching.
Oh, I feel very, very happy that you took that opportunity, because there's nothing that teaches like experience and example, and that you offered up just to take a look and to show that actually it is how possible it is, and how quickly sometimes the mind will try and catch you back. Okay, come back, I got you back. And you start to speak in the past tense again and so on. But the energy of the truth is still radiating in you, you see? And it's like, in a sense, what tends to happen in the beginning, it is like you take a piece of metal and you put it in the fire, and you take it out of the fire when it's red hot, and you can start many fires with this metal. But if you leave it out, it goes cool again or something. And sometimes our minds go cool again, because that's just what we are used to, being in that sort of state, you know. But, I feel that with someone like yourself who have had a genuine urge for things, and especially now that you taste the simplicity of it, that it is not so huge, a big deal that you have to go and do all these practices for, that you can continue with your life, you can continue doing the things you enjoy, but include this more. This looking inwards, it will contribute a lot to not only your expression, but to the depth of your being, and the way that the wisdom will more come into your expression more too.
Yeah, thank you. I got some other insights now, or perspectives, or something. Yeah. Something clicked inside.
Yes.
And I have a lot of energy in my legs. That was very interesting. That the energy went there.
Yes,
I'm labeling it again, but
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But at the same time, though the energy might go there, you have not moved.
No.
You understand? The source from where this energy is coming also. Yeah. There's a lot, Jannecke, that you can discover and keep on discovering, and it becomes richer and deeper. And then sometimes you may feel that your mind is on the increase. Another time it drops, and then you find that your being is rising much more powerfully. But that is really the richness of breaking through into freedom again.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go now.
Okay.
Thank you. This is so wonderful. Yeah, much light to you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very good, very good. Very happy to meet you, in fact, and I feel that if more interviews would go in this way, where we are not just discussing things in a verbal and a mental way, but we actually can engage in the actuality of seeing, then I feel then so many people will be encouraged by that, because it's not a theory for them. They've borne witness to something that is very tangible for them, and maybe they took a ride with us as we went on.
Yeah, that's kind of been my approach, and it has happened naturally. Yeah. I did that with Byron Katie and a couple of others, and I speak about my personal experiences in my vlogs, because this web series is actually my personal journey as well.
Yes.
So it feels very natural for me to do that. So I would love to do more of that.
And don't limit yourself by saying, well, don't draw any definitions around yourself. So it just keeps that space open. You see, it keeps a space open, and you can always return to this exercise, because I would say, of all the things that we do, to come to this point of recognition, and to go on with it, through with it, rather than backing away from it and then just treat it as an old experience. To go on through with it will be the most important thing in your life. So I'm just going to leave that with you and just say, I'm so happy that I'm very happy to have this type of interview where you actually step on board with me, and we could look together. So it's been very refreshing.
Great.
And I wish your listeners and your viewers very well, in this journey that they're making also, because they must be on a journey to be watching this type of program. So
yes, and they are saying that they are very grateful for me putting myself out there.
Very good.
Because often they are feeling the same, and we are connected in a way. So I think when we're opening our hearts up and we dare to be open, then we are maybe speaking not only for ourselves, but for many people.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.